Hey all, this is Professor Luce, and we're here to talk about chapters 16 through 18, delivery. It's going to be really important that you watch the PowerPoint on delivery because while I can tell you about it, really the best way that you get accustomed to adapting different methods for your own delivery is to watch other people speak. I'm not saying you need to emulate one specific person, but instead find people that you like, that you admire, that you find engaging whenever they're speaking. It could be a late night talk show host, it could be a comedian, it could be a famous YouTuber. It's up to you to find somebody that you admire. But what you need to do is find out what it is that makes them engaging to you. Is it their voice? Is it their eye contact? Is it certain gestures? Is it their animated expressions? Is it how excited they get? Is it their style of delivery, including humor? You need to figure out what it is that draws them to you. And then, to the best of your ability, try to emulate those things. Now, you're not going to like everything that one person does, but when you draw bits and pieces from one person and then another, what eventually happens is you can start to incorporate those into your own delivery, and your delivery style will develop on its own. There are great speakers with very different delivery styles. If you think about comedians, for example, you compare Ron White's delivery, which tends to be a little bit slower, versus Larry the Cable Guy, who's very quick, one-line jokes. Those are two very different styles of humor. Then you compare those two to other comedians that are out there, whether it's like Robin Williams or Eddie Murphy, right? Like, those are completely different styles compared to Chris Rock, compared to Adam Sandler. It doesn't mean that they don't have millions of fans. It just means that they have a very different approach. The same is true in public speaking, that we can be drawn in by different styles. It really just depends on what you find meshes with your personality. There are some general things that you need to pay attention to with delivery. Things like your voice, and then what's known as nonverbal behaviors. So there's the verbal and the nonverbal. Verbal is really anything you say, so the actual words and the way that you say those types of things. So your volume, your intonation, inflection, rate of delivery, etc. Then you have nonverbal behaviors, whether or not you're gesturing, eye contact, movement, body positioning, attire, all those types of things also affect your delivery. And when you think about everyday interpersonal situations, we tend to believe that nonverbal, and we put a lot of faith in the nonverbal much more than the verbal delivery. And this isn't always something that you should be doing as an audience member. So we tend to believe that we know when someone's lying. And they did a study on this, and what they found is that 50% of the time, somebody could predict when another person was lying. Well, in essence, that means you're guessing, right? If you get it right 50%, you got it wrong 50% of the time. And we rely on things like eye contact, especially, to know that someone is telling the truth. You probably heard the phrase, look me in the eye and say whatever. We like to think that we know, but we don't actually know. That's important because it tells you that audiences care about eye contact. And it's immensely important to keep their attention and for you to be seen as trustworthy. The flip side of this is that as an audience member, you need to be consciously aware that just because a speaker isn't making eye contact doesn't mean that they're not trustworthy at all. And just because they are making eye contact doesn't mean that you automatically trust them either. As a speaker, though, you have to be aware that the audience is going to default to believing that eye contact matters immensely, and because of that, you have to pay particular attention to eye contact. When it comes to delivery, you can watch some of the samples and be able to see exactly what is happening. There's a couple of videos here on vocal fry, which are pretty entertaining. I think the Phil Davison speech you'll find enjoyable. I know I have students from over a decade ago that still remember that speech in class. It has been around for a while, but it is important because with that speech, he thought he was just being engaging and that he was really just animated and excited. And I think you'll find that you'll have a very different impression of him overall. The Anne Hathaway video is important because it's a very different side of her than you're probably used to seeing. And so we have expectations sometimes of people, and it's okay to break those expectations sometimes as long as you do it in a positive way. All right, so for the most part, I want you to be able to watch those samples because they give you a variety of styles. They're enjoyable to watch, but you can learn a lot from them as well.